You will never be angry again after listening to this. All of us have felt that familiar surge. Like a hot wave washing over us, anger rises, clouding judgment, twisting thoughts, and stealing our peace. It feels powerful in the moment, maybe even righteous, but the cost is immense. Anger doesn't just hurt others, it becomes a fire inside us, burning away our own happiness, leaving behind only regret and exhaustion. We lose control, saying and doing things we later wish we hadn't. We become prisoners to a powerful emotion. Have you ever wished you could simply turn off that fire? To stand calm and unshaken no matter what stirs the pot? To live a life where anger simply doesn't hold that terrible power over you? It might sound impossible, like wishing for a superpower. But ancient wisdom holds a key. The philosophy of Stoicism offers timeless principles, practical tools honed over centuries, designed specifically to help us understand, manage, and ultimately free ourselves from the grip of destructive emotions like anger. Stoicism isn't about becoming emotionless robots. It's about understanding our inner world, recognizing what we can control and what we cannot, and choosing our response to life's challenges with wisdom and tranquility. It's a path to unlocking a profound inner peace that external events cannot easily disturb. In this video, we will explore these powerful Stoic lessons. Lessons that, when truly understood and applied, can help you navigate life's inevitable frustrations without being consumed by anger. We will uncover the roots of anger and learn how to pull them up. Listen closely, for understanding your mind and emotions is the first step to mastering them. And believe me, once you grasp these powerful principles, the blazing fire of anger will no longer dominate your life. It might flicker, but you will hold the power to prevent it from becoming a destructive inferno. Stay until the end, where we will create a simple, step-by-step plan on exactly how to apply these profound ideas to your daily life, starting today. We put a lot of hours into this animated video. So if you want to support our new channel, please like this video, subscribe, and push the notification bell so you don't miss our new videos. Let's begin. Number 1. Anger is self-inflicted harm. Anger often feels like a necessary response, something forced upon us by someone else's actions or an unfair situation. We point fingers, laying blame outside ourselves. But Stoicism offers a radically different perspective. Anger is not primarily caused by external events, but by our internal judgment about those events. It is a disturbance we create within ourselves. Think of anger as a self-poisoning. Imagine you are bitten by a mosquito. The bite is an external event. The itch that follows is a physical reaction. But if you scratch and scratch until you draw blood and make it worse, that worsening is self-inflicted harm stemming from your reaction to the initial event. Anger works in a similar way. Someone says something rude. That is the external event. The feeling of annoyance might be an initial reaction, but the choice to become enraged, to dwell on the insult, to let it consume your thoughts, that is a judgment you make. It is your interpretation that says this is an unbearable offense, and that interpretation ignites the fire of anger. The Roman poet Horace, long before the height of Stoicism, called anger a short madness. This echoes the Stoic view that anger is a temporary loss of reason. When gripped by anger, our ability to think clearly, to empathize, to find constructive solutions vanishes. We are blinded by intense emotion, leading us to say and do things that we almost always regret once the storm passes. Have you ever lashed out in anger, only to feel a heavy weight of shame or sadness afterward? That feeling of regret is the soul acknowledging the self-inflicted wound. The anger felt justified in the moment, perhaps even satisfying in a twisted way, but the lingering feeling is one of damage, not triumph. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded themselves and their students that external things cannot touch our inner core unless we allow them to. We cannot control the actions of others, the weather, or the unpredictable turns of fate, but we hold absolute power over our own minds, our thoughts, and our judgments. The way we choose to perceive a situation determines whether it becomes a trigger for anger or an opportunity to practice patience and wisdom. This understanding is incredibly liberating. It shifts the focus from trying to control the uncontrollable external world to mastering the one thing we truly can control: our internal response. When we see anger not as a justified reaction to the world, but as a harmful state we choose to enter based on our judgments, we begin to see a way out. The path to overcoming anger begins with recognizing that the battle is not with others, but within ourselves. Anger is not an unavoidable outcome. It is a choice, albeit often an unconscious one, driven by faulty judgments. By changing our judgments, we change our emotional landscape. This is the fundamental Stoic insight. Number 2, practice deep self-awareness. Before we can change our reaction to anger, we must first understand it. Where does it come from? Within us. What are the specific thoughts and judgments that trigger it? This is where the Stoic practice of self-reflection becomes an indispensable tool. It's not just about thinking about your day, it's about actively examining your inner world, shining a light on your thoughts, beliefs, and emotional patterns. Imagine your mind is a garden. Anger is a persistent, thorny weed. You can try to hack at the top of the weed when it appears, which is like trying to suppress anger once it flares up. It might work for a moment, but the roots are still there, ready to sprout again. To truly eliminate the weed, you must understand its root system. Self-awareness is the process of digging down to find those roots. When anger arises, the first crucial step, according to Stoicism, is to pause. Just a moment. This pause creates a tiny space between the stimulus and your reaction. In that space, you can begin to ask questions. Why am I feeling this way right now? What specific thought just crossed my mind that ignited this fire? Is this anger truly proportionate to the situation, or is it fueled by something else? Perhaps insecurity, tiredness, or a past hurt? Often, our anger is not just about the surface event. Someone cutting you off in traffic might trigger rage, not just because of the inconvenience, but because it feels like a personal disrespect, an attack on your right to be on the road, or because you are already stressed, and this is the final straw. Self-reflection helps you see these deeper layers. It helps you realize that your anger is often more about your internal state and your interpretations than it is about the external action itself. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius kept journals, meticulously recording their thoughts and examining their actions at the end of each day. This was not just a diary, it was a rigorous practice of self-assessment. He would ask himself, what did I do well today? Where did I fail? How did I react to challenges? Did I act according to my principles? This daily habit builds the muscle of self-awareness. It makes you more attuned to your triggers and the faulty judgments that lead to negative emotions like anger. Modern life, with its constant distractions, makes this practice challenging but even more necessary. We are so busy reacting to the external world, notifications, emails, news, social media, that we rarely take time to check in with our internal world. But even a few minutes each day dedicated to quiet reflection can make a profound difference. Sit quietly and simply observe your thoughts without judgment. Notice the patterns. When did you feel angry today? What was the specific situation? What thoughts went through your mind just before the anger flared? What judgment did you make about the situation or the other person? This honest confrontation with yourself is not about self-criticism. It's about understanding. Only by understanding the mechanics of your own anger, the triggers, the thoughts, the judgments, can you begin to dismantle its power. Self-awareness is the flashlight that helps you see the roots of the weed, making it possible to pull them out and cultivate a more peaceful inner garden. It is the foundation upon which all other Stoic techniques for managing anger are built. Did you know that if you are currently watching this video, you are probably a visual learner? Before we get into the next part, wouldn't it be better if you had an app specially designed for visual learners like you? That's exactly what BookWatch offers. We have animated book summaries of the best non-fiction and Stoicism books like The Daily Stoic, The Obstacle is the Way, and many more. You can watch animated videos like the one you are currently watching and also ask our AI how to specifically apply each book to your life. Check out the BookWatch app in the first link in the description below. Now, let's continue. Number 3. Focus only on what you control. One of the most fundamental principles of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control. It states that some things are within our power and others are not. Our opinions, our judgments, our desires, our aversions, and our actions are within our control. Everything else, our bodies, our reputation, the actions of others, external events, the weather, the past, the future, is not. Understanding and internalizing this principle is a powerful antidote to anger. Why does this help with anger? Because a vast amount of our anger stems from wanting to control things that are simply outside our power. We get angry when someone disagrees with us. We can't control their opinion. We get angry when a train is delayed. We can't control the train schedule. We get angry when it rains on our picnic. We can't control the weather. We get angry when someone insults us. We can't control their words or intentions. In each case, our anger is a futile protest against reality, a stubborn refusal to accept that the universe is not arranged for our personal convenience. Epictetus, the former slave who became a great Stoic teacher, emphasized this repeatedly. He taught that unhappiness and distress come from trying to control what is not yours to control. When you tie your peace of mind to external outcomes, whether someone approves of you, whether you get the job, whether traffic is clear, you hand over your tranquility to the whims of fate and the actions of others. This makes you incredibly vulnerable to anger and frustration. Consider the example of being stuck in traffic. You have an important appointment, the cars are barely moving. You feel the familiar heat of anger rising. You might grip the steering wheel tighter, mutter curses, or honk your horn. What are you angry at? The traffic. Can you control the traffic? No. Your anger is a reaction to something outside your control. It does absolutely nothing to change the situation. It only makes you miserable, raises your blood pressure, and perhaps makes you drive more recklessly when the traffic finally clears. Now, apply the dichotomy of control. What can you control in this situation? You can control your thoughts about the traffic. You can control your reaction. You can choose to accept that traffic is a part of modern life, and sometimes delays happen. You can choose to use the time productively, perhaps listening to something educational or simply practicing patience. You can control your decision not to let the external event, the traffic, dictate your internal state, your peace of mind. This doesn't mean you don't take action where action is possible and within your control. If you are angry about a mistake you made at work, you can control apologizing, learning from the mistake, and working to improve. If you are angry about being treated unjustly, you can control speaking up calmly, seeking resolution, or deciding how to move forward. The key is to focus your energy and attention on the part of the situation that is within your sphere of influence, your own response, your own actions, your own character, rather than wasting it on railing against the unchangeable external facts. When you truly internalize this principle, you develop a powerful filter for potential anger triggers. Before anger takes hold, you can ask yourself, is this situation within my control? Can I change the external circumstance that is making me angry? If the answer is no, then dwelling on it, wishing it were different, and getting angry is pointless and self-destructive. You can then consciously choose to let go of the need to control the uncontrollable and focus instead on controlling your own attitude and response. This is not passive resignation. It is active wisdom, a strategic allocation of your mental energy to where it can actually make a difference within yourself. Number 4, cultivate inner stillness. In our noisy, fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded by stimuli. Our minds race from one thought to the next, driven by external demands and internal chatter. This constant mental activity makes us reactive, easily tossed about by our emotions, including anger. Stoicism teaches the importance of cultivating inner stillness, a state of calm presence and mental composure that acts as a buffer against the slings and arrows of external life. Inner stillness is not about emptying your mind or suppressing thoughts. It is about developing the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions without being immediately swept away by them. It is about finding a quiet center within yourself, a place of calm from which you can choose your response rather than merely reacting impulsively. This stillness is where wisdom resides and where anger struggles to take root. Think of your mind as a lake. When the wind blows, external events or strong emotions, the surface becomes choppy and turbulent. It's hard to see the bottom. But when the wind dies down and the surface is still, the water becomes clear, allowing you to see everything beneath the surface. Inner stillness is like calming the surface of the lake. It allows you to see your thoughts and emotions clearly, understand their nature, and decide how to act rather than being churned about by them. How do you cultivate this stillness? One way is through practices that bring you into the present moment, such as mindfulness or simple, quiet contemplation. Even a few minutes each day spent in silence, focusing on your breath, or simply observing your surroundings without judgment can begin to train your mind to be less reactive. It teaches you to be present with your experience, whatever it is, without immediately labeling it as good or bad, desirable or undesirable. When a situation arises that might normally trigger anger, the practice of stillness allows you to pause before reacting. Instead of immediately launching into an angry response, you can take a breath, step back internally, and observe the rising emotion. You can acknowledge the feeling. I am feeling angry right now, without becoming the anger. This observation creates distance. It allows you to see the anger as a temporary state, not a defining characteristic or an unavoidable command to act. In the face of criticism or perceived injustice, our default is often to become agitated and defensive. But if you can access that inner stillness, you can listen without immediate emotional entanglement. You can process the information calmly, evaluate its validity, and formulate a considered response, or choose not to respond at all, rather than firing back in anger. This is not weakness, it is immense strength, the strength to control your internal state regardless of external provocation. The Stoics understood that external circumstances are unpredictable. Life will throw challenges, insults, and frustrations your way. You cannot stop the waves from coming, but you can learn to be a steady ship. Cultivating inner stillness is like strengthening the anchor and stabilizing the vessel of your mind. It makes you less susceptible to being capsized by the storms of emotion. It allows you to meet adversity with a calm presence, observing the situation with clarity rather than being overwhelmed by emotional turbulence. This capacity for stillness is a powerful defense against the destructive power of anger. Number 5. Embrace the impermanence of things. Much of our anger stems from our attachment to how we believe things should be, and our distress when reality fails to meet those expectations. We want relationships to be perfect, plans to go smoothly, people to behave as we think they ought to. When reality deviates, we feel frustrated, wronged, and often angry. Stoicism teaches us to temper these expectations by understanding the inherent impermanence and unpredictability of the world. Everything in the external world is in a state of flux. Relationships change, possessions break, plans fall apart, people disappoint us, circumstances shift unexpectedly. This is the natural order of things. It is not a personal affront. It is simply the nature of existence. Our anger often arises from resisting this fundamental truth. We cling to stability, predictability, and permanence in a universe that constantly changes. Consider a cherished possession that breaks. If you are deeply attached to it, the breaking might trigger anger and frustration. You might be angry at the person who broke it, angry at yourself for being careless, or simply angry at the unfairness of it. This anger is fueled by your attachment to the object and your expectation that it should last forever or remain in perfect condition. The Stoic perspective encourages acknowledging the value of the object while also recognizing its temporary nature. From the moment it was created, it was destined to eventually degrade or break. This understanding doesn't mean you don't care for your possessions, but it reduces the emotional shock and anger when the inevitable happens. Applying this to people and relationships is perhaps more challenging, but also more rewarding. People change, relationships evolve, and sometimes they end. Expectations that others will always behave in a certain way, always agree with us, or always be present in our lives exactly as they are now are unrealistic. When someone changes, disappoints, or leaves, our anger often reflects our frustrated expectation that they should have remained static or acted according to our script. The Stoic practice here is not about becoming indifferent to others, but about loving and appreciating them while simultaneously accepting the reality of their independent nature and the impermanence of external connections. When faced with disappointment in others, instead of defaulting to anger, you can remember that their actions are external to you, driven by their own internal world which you cannot control. You can choose to accept the reality of the situation, understand that change is constant, and focus on what you can control: your own response, your own character, and your own path forward. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to greet each morning by remembering that he might encounter busybodies, ingrates, aggressors, treacherous people, envious people, unsocial people. He didn't do this to be pessimistic, but to prepare himself, to understand that these behaviors are part of human nature and the world's unpredictable flow. By expecting these things as possibilities, he could meet them with less surprise and less anger, choosing instead to focus on maintaining his own virtuous character in the face of them. Embracing impermanence helps loosen the grip of attachment and expectation. When you understand that everything is subject to change, you are less likely to be blindsided and angered when change occurs. You learn to appreciate things and people in the moment, accepting their transient nature. This perspective fosters a deeper sense of peace and resilience, making you less susceptible to the anger that arises from fighting against the natural, ever-changing flow of life. Number 6. Practice empathetic understanding. Much of our anger towards others stems from judging their actions without understanding their perspective, their circumstances, or their internal struggles. We see an action we dislike or that harms us, label the person as malicious or incompetent, and anger flares. Stoicism, while emphasizing self-control, also encourages developing a form of empathetic understanding, recognizing that others, like us, are often acting based on their own beliefs, perceived necessities, or even ignorance. The Stoics understood that people's actions are driven by their judgments about what is good and bad. If someone does something that harms you, from their perspective, they might believe they are doing something necessary, beneficial for themselves, or simply acting out of their own pain or mistaken beliefs. They are not necessarily setting out to deliberately make your life miserable, even if that is the effect. They are operating from within their own sphere of understanding and their own hierarchy of values, however flawed you might perceive them to be. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about this, reminding himself that people who do wrong are often astray, acting out of ignorance of what is truly good. He saw their wrongdoing as a kind of misfortune for them, a sign of their misguided judgment. This perspective doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it shifts the emotional response from personal outrage and anger to a form of pity or understanding. Instead of thinking, "How dare they do this to me?" the Stoic tries to understand what led them to believe this was the right or necessary thing to do. Imagine someone cuts you off dangerously in traffic, a common trigger for anger, as we've noted. Your initial angry judgment might be, "That person is a terrible, selfish driver who deliberately put me in danger." This judgment fuels your rage. Now try applying empathetic understanding. You still acknowledge the danger of the action, but you might consider, are they rushing to a family emergency? Are they distracted by terrible news? Are they simply a novice driver making a mistake? Are they operating under immense stress? You don't know their story. Their action, while impactful on you, is primarily a product of their own internal state and circumstances, not a targeted attack. This shift in perspective disarms the personal offense that often fuels anger. It moves the focus from "they did this to me" to "they did this." By recognizing that others' actions flow from their own internal causes, which you cannot fully know or control, you are less likely to take their actions personally and become enraged. It allows you to deal with the behavior, perhaps taking evasive action, or deciding how to interact with that person in the future, without being consumed by anger towards the person. Practicing empathetic understanding is not always easy, especially when the harm feels deliberate or severe. It does not mean condoning or tolerating abuse. Stoicism acknowledges the need for justice and self-protection. However, even in confronting wrongdoing, maintaining a degree of understanding about the perpetrator's misguided state can prevent anger from consuming you. You can take action to address the injustice without letting hatred and rage destroy your inner peace. By cultivating the habit of considering the possible reasons behind others' actions, even those that seem hurtful or frustrating, you create distance from the automatic judgment that triggers anger. You recognize the shared human condition with its flaws, ignorance, and struggles. This broader perspective fosters patience and reduces the impulse to react with immediate, fiery indignation. It allows you to respond to difficult interactions with greater calm and wisdom, preserving your own tranquility. Number 7, choose your response wisely. We've discussed how anger is often triggered by our judgments about external events and the actions of others. The good news, according to Stoicism, is that between the external stimulus and our internal reaction lies a crucial space, the space where we can exercise our power of choice. We cannot always choose what happens to us, but we can always choose how we respond. This choice is the ultimate tool for mastering anger. Many people feel that when they are provoked, anger is an automatic, unavoidable response. Something happens, and boom, they are angry. But Stoicism argues that this feeling of inevitability is an illusion created by habit and unexamined judgments. There is always a micro moment, a tiny pause, however brief, between the event and the full-blown emotional reaction. In that moment, fueled by self-awareness and a focus on what you control, you have the power to choose a different path. Think back to a time when you were about to get angry, but for some reason, you stopped yourself. Maybe you saw the futility of it, maybe you remembered a principle, or maybe you simply took a deep breath. In that instance, you exercised your power of choice. You chose not to fully engage with the anger. The Stoic goal is to expand that micro moment of choice, making it a conscious, deliberate act in the face of provocation. How do you make this choice effectively? It starts with recognizing the anger as it begins to stir. This is where self-awareness, lesson 2, is vital. Feel the heat rising, the tension building, the negative thoughts forming. Acknowledge it. Anger is appearing. Do not immediately identify with it or act on it. Next, use the dichotomy of control, lesson 3. Ask yourself, is the cause of this anger something I can control? If it's someone else's action or an external event, the answer is likely no. This realization helps deflate the urgency of the anger. Why rage against something you cannot change? Then, bring in stillness. Lesson 4. Take a breath. Create a mental pause. Step back internally from the immediate emotional urge. This gives your rational mind a chance to engage. In this space, consider the consequences of choosing anger versus choosing a different response, like calm, patience, or measured action. Anger will likely lead to regret, damaged relationships, stress, and loss of peace. Choosing calm, on the other hand, preserves your tranquility, allows for clearer thinking, and enables a more constructive response if action is needed. Which outcome do you value more? The temporary, destructive heat of anger or lasting inner peace? The Stoics valued virtue and tranquility above all else. Choosing your response is about aligning your actions with your highest values. This conscious choice needs practice. It won't be perfect every time, especially with deeply ingrained habits. But each time you successfully pause and choose a different response, even if it's just choosing not to say the first angry thing that comes to mind, you strengthen your ability to exercise this power. You are training your mind to break the automatic link between stimulus and angry reaction. The more you practice, the larger that space between event and response becomes. What once felt like an instantaneous surge of uncontrollable anger becomes a recognized emotion that you can observe, question, and ultimately choose not to act upon. This is not about suppressing emotions until they explode later. It is about transforming the immediate, unthinking reaction into a conscious, deliberate choice aligned with reason and wisdom. The power to choose your response is your greatest weapon against anger's destructive force. Number 8. Practice the art of forgiveness. While many Stoic principles focus on managing our own internal state regarding external events, dealing with anger often involves dealing with the actions of other people who have wronged us. Holding on to resentment and grudges is a potent fuel for chronic anger. Stoicism, recognizing the self-destructive nature of such feelings, advocates for the practice of forgiveness, not primarily for the sake of the other person, but for the liberation of ourselves. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is not necessarily about forgetting what happened or excusing wrongful behavior. It is about releasing the emotional burden of resentment and anger associated with the past event. It is a decision to no longer allow the actions of another person, which are in the past and outside your control, to continue to poison your present emotional state. When someone harms us, our immediate, understandable reaction is often to feel hurt, betrayed, and angry. We may replay the event in our minds, nursing the grievance, perhaps fantasizing about retribution. This mental looping keeps the anger alive, tethering us to the past and to the person who wronged us. We become prisoners of our own resentment. The other person may be completely unaffected, while we suffer the ongoing distress. Stoicism encourages recognizing the futility and self-harm in holding on to this anger. The past cannot be changed. The other person's character or actions, being external, are beyond your control now as they were then. By clinging to anger, you are simply choosing to prolong your own suffering. Forgiveness is the act of cutting that chain, a conscious decision to release the anger and resentment, not because the other person necessarily deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Applying empathetic understanding, Lesson 6, can aid in the process of forgiveness. While it doesn't excuse the behavior, understanding that the person who harmed you was likely acting from their own flawed judgments, ignorance, or internal pain can help depersonalize the offense. It allows you to see their action as a consequence of their own state, rather than solely a deliberate attack aimed at your destruction. This perspective can make it easier to let go of the intense personal hurt that fuels lasting anger. Forgiveness is a process, not always a single event. It might involve grieving the hurt, acknowledging the injustice, but then making a deliberate choice to stop dwelling on the anger. It might mean setting boundaries to protect yourself from future harm from that person, or it might mean ending the relationship if it was toxic. Forgiveness is compatible with self-preservation and seeking justice where possible and rational. The key is that these actions are taken from a place of rational decision-making, not from the blinding fog of rage and resentment. The story of Louis Zamperini, mentioned in the original script, is a powerful real-world illustration. His years of post-war suffering were extended not just by the trauma he experienced, but by the consuming hatred he held for his tormentors. His eventual decision to forgive was not about benefiting the bird, but about freeing himself from the psychological prison his hatred had built around him. That act of forgiveness was the key that unlocked his own peace. When you forgive, you are not saying, "What you did was okay." You are saying, "What you did will no longer hold power over my emotional well-being." It is an act of self-empowerment, a reclaiming of your inner territory from the past. It is perhaps one of the most difficult, yet most liberating applications of Stoic principles. By practicing forgiveness, you release the heavy baggage of resentment, allowing you to move forward with a lighter heart and a mind free from the corrosive influence of lingering anger. Number 9. Remember your mortality. This might seem like a strange piece of advice for dealing with anger, but remembering your own mortality, a frequent practice in Stoicism known as memento mori, offers a powerful perspective that can dissolve many sources of frustration and anger. When you contemplate the brevity of life, you begin to see the triviality of many things that trigger your anger. We often get worked up about minor inconveniences, petty disputes, or perceived slights. Someone is late, a plan changes, a comment is misunderstood. In the heat of the moment, these things can feel incredibly important, justifying intense anger. But seen from the perspective of your limited time on this earth, how significant are they really? Imagine you are on your deathbed, looking back at your life. Would you wish you had spent more time being angry about traffic jams, rude cashiers, or minor disagreements with loved ones? Or would you regret the moments of joy, peace, and connection that anger stole from you? This perspective helps recalibrate your priorities. It makes you question whether spending your precious, finite time and energy on anger is truly worthwhile. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that life is short and that soon he would be gone. This wasn't morbid dwelling, but a practical tool to keep things in perspective. If someone wronged him, he would consider that both he and the person who wronged him would soon be dead. In the grand scheme of the universe and the vastness of time, this particular grievance was incredibly small and temporary. This thought helped him avoid getting consumed by anger or holding on to grudges. Remembering mortality also encourages focusing on what truly matters, cultivating your character, living according to your values, and cherishing your relationships. Anger often distracts us from these essential pursuits. It pulls us into trivial battles and drains the energy we could use for growth and connection. Furthermore, the awareness of our limited time can foster a sense of urgency to live well now. This includes living peacefully. Why waste precious moments in the destructive state of anger when you could be experiencing tranquility, gratitude, or love? This perspective encourages you to let go of minor irritations quickly, recognizing that holding on to them is a waste of your most valuable resource, time. This practice is not about ignoring problems or becoming passive. It is about gaining perspective. It allows you to distinguish between genuine injustices that require thoughtful action and minor annoyances that are best met with patience or even humor. By remembering that your time is limited, you are less likely to squander it on the unproductive and destructive emotion of anger. You are encouraged to live with more intention, focusing on what truly contributes to a good life, which, for the Stoics, was a life lived virtuously and peacefully. Embracing your mortality paradoxically helps you live more fully and calmly in the present moment. Number 10. Practice gratitude daily. Gratitude might seem like an opposite emotion to anger, and indeed it is a powerful counterweight. Stoicism recognizes gratitude not just as a pleasant feeling, but as a deliberate practice that shifts our focus from what is wrong or lacking to what is right and abundant. Cultivating gratitude daily is an effective way to diminish the fertile ground in which anger takes root. Much of our anger arises from a sense of entitlement or dissatisfaction. We are angry because we didn't get what we expected, or because things aren't the way we think they should be. This focus on lack and unmet expectations fuels frustration and resentment, which are closely related to anger. Gratitude shifts this focus entirely. Instead of dwelling on what you lack or what has gone wrong, practicing gratitude involves actively noticing and appreciating what you do have and what is going right. This includes not just the big things, but the small, easily overlooked aspects of daily life. The ability to see, hear, and walk. Having food to eat and a roof over your head. The kindness of a stranger, the beauty of a sunrise, the simple fact of being alive. Marcus Aurelius began his meditations by listing the people he was grateful for and the lessons he had learned from them. This was a daily exercise in acknowledging the gifts he had received, both in terms of relationships and wisdom. By starting his day with gratitude, he set a tone of appreciation rather than complaint or demand. How does this combat anger? When you are genuinely focused on appreciating what you have, it is much harder to simultaneously feel angry about what you don't have or what isn't perfect. Gratitude fosters a sense of contentment and acceptance. It helps you see life not as a series of problems to be angry about, but as a collection of experiences, some good and some challenging, for which you can find reasons to be thankful. Even in difficult situations, gratitude can be practiced. You can be grateful for the challenge itself, seeing it as an opportunity to develop resilience and learn. You can be grateful for the lessons learned from failure or disappointment. You can be grateful for the support you receive during hardship. This is the deeper Stoic form of gratitude, being thankful for everything that fate sends your way, recognizing that it is all part of the unfolding of life and offers opportunities for virtuous response. A simple daily practice is keeping a gratitude journal. Each morning or evening, write down 3 to 5 things you are sincerely grateful for. They can be as small as a good cup of coffee or a pleasant conversation. This consistent practice trains your mind to look for the positive, to notice the blessings rather than focusing on the irritations. Over time, this shift in perspective makes you less prone to anger. The more you cultivate appreciation for what is, the less power frustration and resentment over what isn't will have over you. Gratitude is not a passive feeling, it is an active choice, a mental discipline that transforms your emotional landscape and makes anger a less frequent visitor. Your step-by-step plan. You have now explored 10 powerful Stoic principles that can help you understand and overcome anger. These ideas are not just abstract concepts, they are practical tools waiting to be applied. Mastering anger, like any skill, requires consistent practice. Here is a simple, step-by-step plan to begin integrating these Stoic lessons into your daily life. Step 1. Start with self-awareness. For the next week, simply notice when anger arises. Don't try to stop it or judge yourself. Just become aware of the trigger, the physical sensations, and the thoughts that accompany the anger. Use the pause technique, a deep breath and a moment of observation before reacting. Perhaps jot down a few notes at the end of the day about when and why you felt angry. Connects to Lesson 2, practice deep self-awareness. Step 2, identify your control. When you notice anger, immediately ask yourself, is this situation within my control? If it is not, remind yourself that getting angry about it is futile and harmful to you. Practice consciously releasing the urge to control the uncontrollable. Shift your focus to what you can control: your breath, your thoughts, your chosen response. Connects to Lesson 3. Focus only on what you control. Step 3. Cultivate moments of stillness. Dedicate 5 to 10 minutes each day to quiet reflection or simple mindfulness. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, and focus on your breath. When thoughts or emotions, including anger, arise, simply observe them without judgment and gently return your attention to your breath. This builds your capacity for inner calm. Connects to Lesson 4. Cultivate inner stillness. Step 4. Practice daily gratitude. Each morning or evening, write down 3 things you are genuinely grateful for. Make it a non-negotiable habit. This trains your mind to focus on abundance and appreciation, counteracting the focus on lack and dissatisfaction that fuels anger. Connects to Lesson 10. Practice gratitude daily. Step 5. Reflect on impermanence and mortality. When you feel frustrated or angry about something external, a broken object, a changed plan, a difficult person, consciously remember that everything is temporary. Consider how important this issue will be in a week, a month, a year, or from the perspective of your entire life. Let this perspective help you release the anger. Connects to Lesson 5. Embrace the impermanence of things, and Lesson 9. Remember your mortality. Step 6. Consider others' perspectives. When someone does something that makes you angry, pause and try to consider what might be going on in their life or what their perspective might be. Remember that their actions flow from their own internal state. This helps you avoid taking their actions overly personally. Connects to Lesson 6. Practice empathetic understanding. Step 7. Choose your response deliberately. In that moment between stimulus and reaction, actively choose how you will respond. Will you choose the familiar path of anger and its negative consequences, or will you choose patience, understanding, or calm, measured action? Remind yourself that this choice is always yours. Connects to Lesson 7. Choose your response wisely. Step 8. Practice forgiveness. Identify a past or present grievance that is still causing you anger or resentment. Make a conscious decision to release the emotional burden of this anger for your own peace. You don't need to tell the other person. This is an internal act of liberation. Start with smaller grievances if needed. Connects to Lesson 8. Practice the art of forgiveness. Step 9. Reframe anger as self-harm. Whenever you feel anger rising, consciously label it, "This is self-inflicted harm." Remind yourself that anger is a poison you drink, hoping the other person will suffer. This reinforces the understanding that anger primarily hurts you, strengthening your motivation to let it go. Connects to Lesson 1. Anger is self-inflicted harm. Step 10. Be patient and persistent. Mastering anger is a lifelong journey, not a destination. There will be setbacks. You will get angry again. Do not be discouraged. Simply observe, learn, and recommit to your practice. Each time you apply these principles, you become stronger and more capable of choosing peace over anger. By consistently practicing these steps, you are retraining your mind, building new habits, and cultivating the inner resilience that Stoicism offers. You are learning to live in accordance with reason, mastering your emotions, and reclaiming your inner peace from the destructive grip of anger. Trust the process, be patient with yourself, and embark on this journey toward a life of greater tranquility and freedom. If you like this video and you want to support our new channel, please like this video, subscribe, and push the notification bell so you don't miss our new videos.